Kamen teacher began with a group of gangsters torturing 3 female students in an abandoned warehouse. Not long after that, a mysterious man in mask came to that place to save those 3 poor female students. He attacked those young gangsters and managed to defeat all of them. That man in mask was named Goda Araki. Goda Araki was a high school teacher from a special team that was created by the Japanese government to handle juvenile delinquency at school. On his first day arriving in that high school, he met with another teacher named Ikimura Miki. In the staff room, the deputy head teacher introduced Goda to other teachers there. He said that Goda was going to replace Kuon as the new homeroom teacher for Class 2C. After that, Ichimura took Goda to the classroom. She told Goda that all of the students in Class 2C were violent delinquents who had no respect for authority figures. Goda was excited when he heard that. He thought that it would be a fun challenge to become a homeroom teacher for those students. Ichimura asked him to be careful because it was not easy to become a homeroom teacher for violent delinquents like them. After that, Goda went to the classroom and introduced himself to class as their new homeroom teacher, but nobody paid attention to him. He then gave an introduction form to each student in that classroom to attract their attention. But while he was doing that, a student named Kotaro suddenly attacked him by punching him in the face for several times. Kotaro didn't like Goda's presence in that classroom. Despite that, Goda didn't attack him back and still tried to approach Kotaro by giving him the introduction form. Kotaro's friend, Kinzo Takehara, suddenly punched Goda hard in the face that poor man fell out of the window. Luckily, Goda still managed to hang onto the window. He still tried to smile and give the introduction forms to those students, but because of the wound that he got from Kinzo's punch, Goda finally lost his grip on the window and collapsed. After a while, Goda woke up from his faint and found himself in the staff room. He saw Ichimura there and told her that he wanted to get closer with his students. But Ichimura suggested him not to do that because it would only make him get more troubles from his students. She explained that the teachers there tried their best to interact less with those students while they were teaching in the classroom because of the same reason. She said that the students in Class 2C were notorious as the most tough students to handle in that high school. She also told Goda about the story of Kuon, the old homeroom teacher for Class 2C. She said that Kuon was often harassed by his students, that he finally lost his sanity and left the school. Later, 2 students were getting into a fight. Goda saw them and tried to break up their fight. It was revealed that those students had a fight over 100,000 yen. They said that it was because of Goda that they lost the 100,000 yen. After that, a student named Kanako Kondo approached Goda and told him about the story behind the 100,000 yen. Kanako said that the students who had a fight earlier were good friends. A student named Bon promised them that he would give them some money. It was revealed that Bon earned his nickname because he came from a very wealthy family. With the money that he had, Bon managed to easily control and manipulate other students in that school. Kanako also told Goda about the legendary 4 students who were known as M4. Those students were Bon, Kotaro, Ryota, and Shishimaru. Bon was known as Money Man because he liked to use his money and wealth to manipulate people around him. Kotaro was known as Mad Matt because he was scary when he was angry and nobody could predict his anger. Ryota was known as Iceman because he was very cold and had never showed his emotion. Shishimaru was known as Shadow Man because he was great at manipulating his enemies into doing what he wanted. Kanako said that even though those 4 students were strong and powerful, there was another student who was more powerful than them. That student was named Kinzo Takehara. He was known as the strongest student in that school. Kanako revealed that Bon was actually one of the weakest students in school, but he managed to become a member of M4 because of his wealth. Bon liked to use his money to pit 2 good friends against each other by offering them some money. Later, Goda met with Bon. Goda asked Bon to stop wasting his money and pitting 2 good friends against each other with his money. Bon laughed when he heard that. He said that it was a pleasure for him to see 2 good friends attacking each other over some money. He was confident that the friendship of those 2 friends would be over just because of 100,000 yen. After saying that, he left Goda in that place. In the evening, Goda went to a restaurant that was owned by a man named Tobi Kobayashi. In that restaurant, Goda told Tobi about his new job as a homeroom teacher at a high school. He regretted that he still couldn't change himself. He also mentioned about his past with Tobi's son. Tobi assured Goda that the incident that happened to his son was not his fault. He said that his son was the one to blame for the incident that happened to him because he mingled with the wrong crowd. Tobi then said that he had a present for Goda. He took Goda to his present and showed him a motorcycle. He said that he assembled that motorcycle by himself, and it took a pretty long time for him to do that. He believed that that motorcycle would help Goda to get his confidence and strength again. The next day, Kanako informed Goda about an extreme competition between students. In that competition, the participants would attack each other until their opponent died. That competition was held by Bon Bon, announced that he would give 1 million yen to anyone who won that competition. Goda panicked when he found out about that. He rushed to the school library and entered a secret room there. In that secret room, he took his uniform and mask that he kept there. After he changed his clothes, he rode his motorcycle that Tobi gave him and stopped the extreme competition that was being held by Bon. He attacked the participants in that competition and managed to defeat all of them. Before he left that place, he told them that he was a Kamen teacher or teacher in mask. Apparently, Kamen Teacher was a program that was created by the Japanese government. The objective of the program was to change delinquent students into good, well-mannered students. Later, Bon told his friends about the Kamen Teacher who ruined the extreme competition that he held. Kotaro was angry when he heard that. He asked Bon to get rid of the Kamen Teacher from their school. He also threatened that he would remove Bon from the M4 if he didn't get the mask that was worn by that teacher. Goda went to the staff room and talked to a teacher named Ayumi Honda. Ayumi used to be Bon's homeroom teacher. Goda asked Ayumi about Bon, but Ayumi refused to answer his questions and left that place instead. Goda was confused when he saw that. Ichimura saw what happened and began to tell Goda about Ayumi's past. According to Ichimura, back then, Ayumi had a student named Aimai Satoshi. One day, Aimai tried to commit suicide because he was tired of getting bullied by his schoolmates. Ayumi felt guilty for what happened to Aimai. She thought that she had failed to protect her student. For that reason, she decided not to become a homeroom teacher anymore. Ichimura also said that Aimai was Bon's friend. Goda felt bad for Bon when he heard that story. Now he understood about the reason why Bon behaved that way. He said that he would try his best to help Bon. At the park, Aimai was spending his time alone by using a wheelchair. He saw a couple of good friends spending some time together in that place. Those two young men reminded him of him and Bon. Suddenly, Goda showed up in that place. Aimai was surprised when he saw him there. In another place, Bon met with Shishimaru. Shishimaru suggested that they set up a trap for the Kamen Teacher so that they could defeat him easily. He told Bon to hold another fighting competition and prepare 5 million yen for the reward. He believed that they would trap the Kamen Teacher with that competition. The next day, many students prepared themselves for the next competition that was held by Bon. They were interested in joining the competition because of the 5 million yen that Bon offered for the winner. It seemed that Bon and Shishimaru's plan went well. They managed to lure the Kamen Teacher into that competition. When those students were preparing themselves for the competition, Goda or the Kamen Teacher showed up in that place to stop them. He managed to defeat all participants in that competition without hurting them. 2 men then stepped in and attacked Goda. Those men were the hitmen who were paid by Bon to attack Goda. But fortunately, Goda managed to defeat them as well. The rest of the participants were scared when they saw that. After they ran away from that place, Goda gave a surprise for Bon. He took Aimai to Bon. Bon was surprised when he saw his old friend there. Aimai tried to make Bon realize that what he was doing was wrong. Bon cried when he heard that. Kotaro was furious when he found out that Bon failed to capture the Kamen Teacher. When he was about to beat Bon up, a student named Kigo Kuzuneji suddenly came to that place and stopped him. Kigo told Kotaro that he knew that Kotaro was actually scared by the Kamen Teacher. Kotaro said that he would face the Kamen Teacher by himself to prove that he was nothing to him. Shishimaru then told Kinzo about Kotaro's plan to defeat the Kamen teacher. He warned Kinzo to be careful, because if Kotaro and his gang managed to defeat the Kamen teacher, then they would probably target Kinzo next. Kotaro's gang began to make a chaos and spread terror throughout all areas in school, including the staff room. Goda immediately went to the secret room in the library to take his uniform and mask when he saw that. After he changed his clothes, he returned to the school with his motorcycle and began to attack those students. Just like before, he managed to defeat all of them without hurting them. It seemed that he had his own philosophy where he didn't allow himself to hurt his students. Kotaro was mad at his subordinates when he found out that they failed to defeat the Kamen teacher. He beat them up and told them to defeat the Kamen teacher no matter what happened. He hated that Kamen teacher because he always ruined his plan. The next day, Kotaro and his gang had a meeting. In that meeting, Kotaro's subordinates confronted Kotaro for what he did to them. They wanted to overthrow Kotaro because they were sick of how Kotaro treated them all this time. Kotaro was offended when he heard that. He began to beat them up and managed to defeat all of them. Suddenly, Kinzo showed up in that place. He mocked Kotaro for what he did to his subordinates. Kotaro stopped beating them up and began to confront Kinzo. Kotaro and Kinzo then got into an argument. Fortunately, Goda managed to come to that place on time and interrupt them before they had the chance to attack each other. While Goda was returning to the staff room, Bon suddenly approached him and told him about Kotaro's plan to attack him. Bon revealed that Kotaro had been using violence to control and threat people around him all this time. But since the Kamen teacher arrived in their school, Kotaro was struggling to harass other people. Kotaro and his subordinates then kidnapped Ichimura and held her captive at the schoolyard. He planned to use Ichimura to lure the Kamen teacher to that place. His plan finally went well. Not long after that, the Kamen teacher came to that place to save Ichimura. Kotaro was happy when he saw him there. He immediately ordered his subordinates to defeat the Kamen teacher. Even though the Kamen teacher didn't touch and hurt them, those students were unable to defeat him. Kotaro was mad when he saw that. He angrily ripped his clothes off and decided to face the Kamen teacher by himself. He tried to attack the Kamen teacher, but he failed to do that. The Kamen teacher managed to avoid his attacks easily. Kotaro tried his best to attack the Kamen teacher, but the Kamen teacher managed to defeat him easily. Before the Kamen teacher left that place, he told Kotaro that he couldn't use violence and threat to control people around him. After saying that, he rode his motorcycle and left Kotaro and the others in that place. The next day, while Goda was spending his time alone in the classroom, Kigo suddenly came to that place and talked to him. Kigo suspected that Goda was the Kamen teacher. Goda noticed that after he defeated Kotaro another day, Kotaro had become more introverted and reserved. Kotaro didn't even fight back when other students beat him up. Kinzo also noticed that Kotaro had changed. He thought that Kotaro became weak because he had been too dependent on his subordinates all this time. In the evening, Goda visited the restaurant that was owned by Tobi. Goda told Tobi that he was confused about the change in Kotaro's personality. He said that he wanted to help Kotaro about the change in his personality. Tobi was glad when he heard that. He said that what Goda did to Kotaro had helped him. He suggested Goda to let Kotaro alone and watch him become the better version of himself. In another place, Ryota attacked two men by using his stun gun. While he was robbing them, he saw Ichimura in that place and asked her not to tell anyone about it. He threatened that he would kill Ichimura if Ichimura didn't do what he asked her. The next day, Ichimura told Goda about what Ryota did last evening. While Ichimura and Goda were having a conversation, Kanako suddenly came to that place and interrupted them. Kanako explained that Ryota robbed those men because he was currently living alone in his apartment. After Goda heard that, he came to see Bon and asked him about Ryota. He wanted to find more information about Ryota to understand his current situation. Bon admitted that he was not that close with Ryota, but he knew that every night, Bon would hunt and attack grown-up men and steal their valuable items. He also knew that Ryota was great at using weapons. He said that Ryota always stayed emotionless while he was attacking and robbing those men, which made him look more scary. After Goda heard that story, he finally decided to go to Ryota's apartment to see Ryota. Goda warmly approached Ryota and asked him to go to the police station with him and return all valuable items that he had stolen. Ryota responded to him by attacking him with his stun gun. Goda collapsed instantly because of that. The next day, Ryota came to see Ichimura and tried to kill her with his weapon. He was mad at her because she had revealed his dark secret to another person. When he was about to attack Ichimura, Goda suddenly came to that place to stop Ryota and save Ichimura. Goda and Ryota then got into a fight. While they were having a fight, Goda suddenly asked Ryota to give him some time and left that place. Not long after that, he returned to that place with his Kamen teacher costume. Ryota attacked the Kamen teacher as soon as he saw him there. At first, the Kamen teacher managed to avoid Ryota's attacks, but after a while, Ryota finally managed to attack him with his stun gun. The Kamen teacher fell off the second floor because of that. Goda then went to Tobi's restaurant and asked Tobi to help him to treat his wounds. He told Tobi about what happened to him earlier. Tobi advised him to use his power sometimes so that such incident wouldn't happen to him anymore. He was worried because the incident could put him in danger. But Goda said that he didn't want to use violence to handle his students. He believed that he could change them into better people with only heart and kindness. Meanwhile, Kotaro was getting beaten up by other students in that school. Kotaro didn't fight them back and let them beat him up. Kotaro's subordinates were irritated when they saw that. They finally decided to help their gang leader to attack those students back. After a while, Kotaro and his gang finally managed to defeat all their enemies. Because of that incident, Kotaro finally understood about what the Kamen teacher said to him another day. While Tobi was walking home, he ran into Ryota. Ryota seemed wild and chaotic as he took out his anger out on the objects in that place. He saw Tobi there and began to beat him up with his weapon. While Ryota was attacking Tobi, someone suddenly came to that place. Turned out that person was the Kamen teacher. The Kamen teacher attacked Ryota and managed to defeat him. After that, he left that place. Later, Goda visited Tobi at the hospital. Tobi told Goda about the Kamen teacher who attacked Ryota and saved him. Goda was confused when he heard that. He then came to see Kentaro Sugihara and asked him about that Kamen teacher. He didn't know that there was another Kamen teacher beside him. Kentaro said that he had made the right decision to hire another Kamen teacher. He argued that it would make other teachers in that school feel more safe and comfortable while teaching in the classrooms. After Goda finished having a meeting with Kentaro, he came to see Bon again. Bon told Goda that Ryota had a sad and dark past. He said that when Ryota was 5 years old, he was always abused by his father. He was also abandoned by his mother because his mother couldn't tolerate his abusive husband anymore. Since his mother left, Ryota only lived with his abusive father, who always abused him every day. A neighbor reported Ryota's father to the police after they found out that he was abusive toward his son. Since that time, Ryota had to live in an orphanage and had never received love and attention from his parents. Goda was surprised when he heard that story. He returned to the staff room and told Ichimura about Ryota's story. Ichimura told her opinion about what happened to Ryota. She now understood about the reason why Ryota behaved that way. She thought that it was because of his sad and dark past that Ryota became cold and emotionless. While Goda was leaving the staff room, other teachers suddenly approached him and told him that there had been a commotion in his classroom. Goda rushed to Class 2C after he heard that. When he arrived in that place, Kanako and Bon told him that Ryota had been kidnapped by 2 strange men who wanted to take revenge on him. Goda panicked when he heard that. He went to his secret room to take his uniform and mask, but when he was about to change his clothes, he suddenly remembered about what Ichimura said to him. He finally decided not to wear his uniform and mask and leave that place. In another place, 2 men were beating Ryota up. Suddenly, Goda came to that place and protected Ryota from those 2 men. He didn't care if he had to sacrifice himself to protect his student. Those 2 men grabbed Goda and began to beat him up. Goda tried his best to avoid their attacks, but he failed to do that. Ryota saw a broken bottle in that place and picked it up quietly. He planned to use the broken bottle to kill those two men. But when he was about to attack those men, Goda suddenly stopped him. Because of that, Ryota accidentally stabbed Goda with the broken bottle. Instead of being mad at Ryota, Goda hugged him and told him that he would always protect him and wouldn't let him become a murderer. He also encouraged Ryota by saying that he would have a bright future. He also suggested him to forget his sad and dark past. Because of the wound in his stomach, Goda was later sent to the hospital to receive treatment. In the evening, when the two men who beat Ryota up earlier arrived in a place, a man in mask suddenly showed up and attacked them. That man in mask was Goda himself. He managed to defeat those two men and all their subordinates. The next day, Goda continued to look for more information to find out about the teacher who became the Kamen teacher beside him. While Kotaro and his gang were hanging out together, Kinzo suddenly came to that place and approached them. This time, Kotaro wasn't being rude at Kinzo. He wisely told Kinzo that he would be ready if Kinzo asked him to have a fight at any time. Kinzo was confused and uncomfortable when he saw that. He didn't know about what to do and finally decided to leave that place. Kinzo returned to his base camp and took out his anger on the punching bag. He was mad because the Kamen teacher had changed Kotaro. Shishimaru was also in that place. He cheered Kinzo up by promising him that he would find and defeat the Kamen teacher for him. In the evening, Shishimaru came to see the deputy head teacher. He told him to help him to find the real identity of the Kamen teacher. He threatened that he would come after every teacher in that school if Shishimaru didn't do what he asked him. The scared deputy head teacher nodded his head right away when he heard that. The next day, the deputy head teacher began to look for the real identity of the Kamen teacher. He also told the teachers there about the threat that he received from Shishimaru. After Goda heard that, he came to see Bon and asked him about Shishimaru. He wanted to find as much as information about Shishimaru. Bon told him that Shishimaru wanted to find the real identity of the Kamen teacher for his best friend Kinzo. He revealed that Shishimaru always relied on his speed when he fought. He also said that Kinzo and Shishimaru were the ones who made them doubt the authority figures. He promised that he would help Goda to investigate Kinzo and Shishimaru. In the evening, Shishimaru met with Goda, who dressed in the Kamen teacher costume. But suddenly, another Kamen teacher showed up in that place and attacked Shishimaru. Goda was surprised when he saw him there. He tried to save Shishimaru from the black Kamen teacher, but the black Kamen teacher managed to attack him first. Shishimaru and the black Kamen teacher then got into a fight. After a while, the black Kamen teacher finally managed to defeat Shishimaru. Because of that incident, Shishimaru got wounded and needed to be sent to the hospital to receive treatment. The next day, Kinzo heard some students talked about Shishimaru. From their conversation, Kinzo found out that Shishimaru got beaten up by the Kamen teacher and now was being hospitalized. Kinzo was mad when he heard that. He then went to the hospital to visit his best friend Shishimaru. At school, Bon told Goda that Kinzo and Shishimaru had become best friends since they lived in the same orphanage. One day, a married couple came to the orphanage and adopted Shishimaru. But turned out, Shishimaru's new adoptive parents adopted Shishimaru because they only wanted to receive some money from the government. They also abused Shishimaru every day. Kinzo was furious when he found out about that. He went to Shishimaru's house and began to beat Shishimaru's adoptive father up. Since that time, they had lost their respect in authority figures. Kinzo was mad because of what happened to his best friend Shishimaru. He then took out his anger on a teacher in that school. While he was beating that teacher up, Goda suddenly came to that place and interrupted him. He tried to make him realize that what he did was wrong. Kinzo was annoyed by Goda and tried to attack him too. But suddenly, the black Kamen teacher suddenly showed up in that place. Kinzo and the black Kamen teacher then got into a fight. They were struggling to attack each other because they were both equally strong. But after a while, the black Kamen teacher managed to defeat Kinzo. The wounded Kinzo tried to leave that place, but the black Kamen teacher stopped him and tried to beat him up again. But suddenly, Goda, who was now dressed in the Kamen teacher costume too, came to that place and attacked the black Kamen teacher. Goda and the black Cayman teacher then got into a fight. After that, Goda came to see Kentaro and asked him to fire the black Cayman teacher. But Kentaro ignored his request and asked him to leave another Cayman teacher alone to secure his future and position. Later, Goda met with Kinzo and tried to reason with him. He reminded Kinzo about his past so that he wanted to believe in the authority figures again. But Kinzo refused to listen to him. He ignored him and went to the hospital to visit his best friend Shishimaru. He was sad because Shishimaru was still lying unconscious on the hospital bed. The next day, Kinzo tried to find a way to pay for Shishimaru's hospital bills. He tried to borrow some money so that he could pay for his best friend's hospital bills, but nobody was willing to lend him money. While Kinzo was leaving that place, a man suddenly approached him and offered him a job in that place. But turned out that man was only using Kinzo. He asked Kinzo to work there so that he could steal some money from his workplace and accuse him of stealing the money. As soon as Goda heard about what happened to Kinzo, he went to Kinzo's workplace to help Kinzo to solve this problem. In the evening, Kinzo asked the worker who had trapped him to come to a place. When that man arrived in that place, Kinzo attacked him, but that man attacked him back. Kinzo and that man then got into a fight. Kinzo was struggling to defeat that man because he used an iron stick to attack him. Meanwhile, he only fought him barehanded. When that man was about to kill Kinzo, Goda, who already dressed in the Cayman teacher costume, suddenly came to that place and attacked that man. After a while, he finally managed to defeat him. After that, he held out his hand to Kinzo, who was struggling to hang onto the fence. He assured Kinzo that there would be a hope if he learned about how to trust people. Kinzo finally gave in and decided to grab Goda's hand. Because of that, Goda managed to save Kinzo. The next day, Goda and his student, Kanako, were heading to the school building together. A student named Asami Noma and her gang saw them. They didn't like to see Kanako and Goda together. They then decided to plan to do something bad to Kanako. When Kanako returned to her classroom, she found out that her desk was missing. She was also relentlessly bullied by Asami and her gang during classes. Kigo was irritated by what they were doing to Kanako. He then attacked Asami's gang and the teacher who was teaching in the classroom. He was mad at that teacher because he didn't do anything when Asami and her gang bullied Kanako. Because of that Kigo did to that teacher, he received a stern warning from the school. In the staff room, the teachers even discussed about whether they should kick Kigo out of the school or not. Ichimura stood up for Kigo by saying that there was always a reason about why people behaved the way they behaved. While Goda and Ichimura were heading to another room, Kanako approached them and told them that Kigo attacked that teacher because he wanted to protect her from Asami and her gang. In the evening, Goda and Ichimura visited Tobi's restaurant. In that restaurant, Ichimura told Goda about Kigo's mother. She revealed that Kigo's mother used to become a teacher at their school. She said that Kigo's mother was her homeroom teacher, and it was because of her that she decided to become a teacher too. Unfortunately, Kigo's mother died 5 years ago because she took her own life. Ichimura said that Kigo's mother was harassed by her students, that she finally got depressed and frustrated and decided to commit suicide. While Goda and Ichimura were returning from Tobi's restaurant, they ran into Kigo. They found out that Kigo was working part-time as a security guard at a nightclub. They then decided to wait for Kigo in that place until he completed his shift. After that, they escorted Kigo home because he wanted to make sure that he returned home safely. Before Goda left that place, he gave Kigo reassurances about his mother's death. It was revealed that Kigo was working part-time as a security guard at the nightclub because he needed to support him and his younger brother. Meanwhile, Asami was berating her subordinates because they didn't attack Kigo back when he attacked them another day. Asami ordered her subordinates to defeat Kigo and kick him out of their school soon. The next day, Asami's subordinates began to bully Kigo again. Kigo then asked them to go to the rooftop with him. When Asami's subordinates were about to beat Kigo up, Goda, the Cayman teacher, suddenly showed up in that place and stopped them. After the Cayman teacher defeated all of Asami's subordinates, he approached Asami and told her not to play with her subordinates' feelings anymore. Asami promised that she would never do such thing again. She also promised that she would apologize to everyone who had suffered because of her. But turned out, Asami was only pretending and lying to the Cayman teacher. When she returned to her base camp, she gave another order to her subordinates to attack Kigo and kick him out of their school. She said that she had found out about Kigo's weaknesses. She knew how to make Kigo angry, which would make him get kicked out of the school. The next day, Asami's gang harassed Kigo again because he ruined their fun time again by stopping them from bullying another student. Asami and her gang were still trying to kick Kigo out of their school. This time, they kidnapped Kigo's brother and held him captive at their base camp. Asami revealed that she was doing this because she wanted to take revenge on Kigo for messing with her gang. Asami also forced Kigo to attack a teacher who was patrolling the school. Kigo couldn't do anything but to do what Asami told him. Because of what he did, he received another stern warning from the school. The school also threatened that they would kick him out of school if he didn't change his behavior. After Goda and Ichimura heard about what happened to Kigo, they came to see Kigo and talk to him. Ichimura told Kigo that his mother was a kind-hearted person who had inspired many people, including her. Kigo was annoyed when he heard that. He attacked Ichimura and warned her not to talk about his mother anymore. He also said that he wouldn't change his behavior just because he heard some story about his mother. He explained that he hated his mother because she was too naive by trusting her students easily. He thought that it was his mother's fault that she got betrayed by many people, which drove her insane and made her take her own life. In the evening, Goda, Ichimura, and Bon were visiting Tobi's restaurant. In that restaurant, Bon shared new information about Kigo that he had just received with Goda and Ichimura. Bon told them that he had been watching Kigo for these past few days and noticed that there was something strange about his behavior. Because of that, he decided to investigate about what happened. He later found out that Kigo's brother had been kidnapped by Asami and her gang. He gave Goda a piece of paper that contained the address where Asami and her gang held Kigo's brother captive. Bon said that he was doing this because he wanted to thank Goda for making him realize that what he was doing was wrong. At school, Kigo received a call from Asami. Asami told Kigo to do something for her. She asked Kigo to burn the classroom down right now. Kigo did what Asami told him because he didn't want something bad to happen to his brother. While he was dousing the classroom with gasoline, the Cayman teacher or Goda suddenly showed up in that place and told Kigo that he wouldn't let him do that. The Cayman teacher promised that he would save and protect Kigo and his brother. After he stopped Kigo from burning the classroom down, he went to the place where Asami and her gang held Kigo's brother captive. But suddenly, the black Cayman teacher also showed up in that place and asked Kigo's brother to run away. After that, he began to attack Asami and her gang, but Goda stopped him. The black Cayman teacher was mad because of that. He and Goda then got into a fight. While they were having a fight, Asami and her gang ran away from that place. After a while, the black Cayman teacher finally took off his mask. Goda was surprised when he found out that he was Kigo. He also took off his mask and tried to convince Kigo that he couldn't use violence to change people. He explained that violence couldn't help him to change people. It was heart and kindness that would change people. Kigo disagreed with him. He said that naivety was the last thing in the world that would change people. He told Goda that what he was doing was very naive and asked him not to disturb him while working anymore. The next day, Kigo visited his mother's grave. To his mother's grave, he said that he had proved what he was capable of doing. Turned out, Goda was also visiting that place. After Kigo left the cemetery, Goda visited Kigo's mother's grave and promised that he would help her to change Kigo into a better person. In the evening, Goda visited Tobi's restaurant. Tobi asked Goda not to forget what he had been through with Shoei Kobayashi, but he wanted Goda to focus on his mission to become the Cayman teacher and keep moving forward. Turned out, Shoei's sister, Seiko Kobayashi, had been listening to the conversation between Goda and Tobi. She was surprised when she found out that the Cayman teacher was Goda himself. She was disappointed at Goda and said that she would never forgive him for what happened to her brother Shoei. It was revealed that Shoei died because he fell off a high place when he wanted to commit suicide. That time, the Kamen teacher or Goda was trying to save him, but he failed to do that. The next day, Kentaro called Goda to his room. Kentaro told Goda that he had fired him as the Kamen teacher. He thanked Goda for his hard work while doing his job as the Kamen teacher all this time. In the classroom during class, Asami and her gang planned to do something to have fun. The teacher who was teaching in the classroom told them to stay quiet. He threatened that he would report them to the Kamen teacher if they didn't do that. Kinzo was annoyed when he heard that. He intimidated that teacher and warned him not to use the Kamen teacher's name to scare them. Asami managed to find a grown-up adult whom she planned to use for her wicked plan. At the hotel, she asked her friend to trap that man so that that man would pay them some money, but turned out that man had anticipated such thing. Instead of using that man, Asami and her gang were captured and kidnapped by him and his men. After Kanako saw what happened to Asami and her gang, she rushed to Tobi's restaurant and told Goda and Ichimura about it. Goda panicked when he found out about that. He finally decided to take his uniform and mask, even though he had been fired from his job as the Kamen teacher. In an abandoned building, Asami and her gang were being held captive by the man from the hotel. Suddenly, Ichimura showed up in that place. She talked to that man to buy some time for Goda to come to that place and save Asami and her gang. Not long after that, the Kamen teacher finally arrived in that place. He immediately attacked that man's subordinates. That man panicked when he saw that. He then took Asami hostage and threatened that he would kill her if the Kamen teacher didn't stop attacking his subordinates. The Kamen teacher couldn't do anything but to do what he asked him. That man's subordinates then began to beat the Kamen teacher up. The Kamen teacher didn't fight them back because he was afraid that something bad would happen to Asami if he did that. Ichimura noticed that that man dropped his guard and used the opportunity to attack him. She got injured in the hand from doing it. The Kamen teacher helped her and attacked that man right away. After a while, he finally managed to defeat him, even though he had to suffer from pretty serious injuries. He saw Kigo and told him that he would protect all his students, including Kigo, from the darkness. He explained that he was doing it because it was his job as the teacher. The next day, Kentaro received a call from the Japanese government. The Japanese government ordered him to hire Goda as the Kamen teacher again. Kinzo and Shishimaru returned to the classroom and saw their old enemy, Tomoe Misaki, in that place. They were surprised when they saw him there. Bon told Goda that Tomoe was a former student in that school and an old enemy of Kinzo Taikara. He also revealed that Tomoe used to become a member of M4, but he was later replaced by him. After Kentaro found out that Tomoe had returned to school, he asked Goda and Kigo to keep an eye on him. In another place, Kotaro's subordinates were being beaten up by a man in black mask. Kotaro was surprised when they saw his subordinates lying weak on the ground with bruises all over their faces. Kotaro's subordinates told him that they got all those bruises from the Kamen teacher. After Goda heard that, he came to see Kigo and asked him about the attack on Kotaro's subordinates. Kigo said that it was not him who attacked Kotaro's subordinates. After Ryota and Kotaro found the location where Kotaro's subordinates got beaten up, they visited that place and saw the fake Kamen teachers there. Ryota and Kotaro then got into a fight with those fake Kamen teachers. When Tomoe found out that Ryota and Kotaro got defeated by the fake Kamen teachers, he provoked other students to overthrow Kotaro. While Goda and Kigo were discussing about what happened to Ryota and Kotaro, Bon suddenly came to that place and told Goda that he had found out about the person who was responsible for the chaos that happened in their school. Those people were the Inukami brothers, Ichiro Inukami and Jiro Inukami. They were grown-up men who had great physical strengths. The black Kamen teacher, Kigo, tried to attack them, but he failed to do that because the Inukami brothers were too strong. The Inukami brothers finally managed to defeat him and left him wounded. Goda was worried when he found him and took him to the hospital soon. The next day, Goda saw Tomoe claiming that he had defeated the Kamen teacher. Tomoe's supporters cheered for him when they heard that. Ichimura went to the hospital to visit Kigo. When she arrived in that place, she saw Kigo still lying unconscious on his hospital bed. She checked a cabinet there and found a black mask inside. She was surprised when she saw that mask. She knew that that mask belonged to the Black Cayman teacher. She realized that Kigo was the Black Cayman teacher. After Kigo woke up from his sleep, Ichimura assured him again that his mother didn't die for nothing. Kigo cried when he heard that. He finally confessed that he actually loved and missed his mother. At school, Tomoe created a new gang and organized the mass to fight anyone who dared to oppose them. Kinzo felt guilty when he found out about that. He told Goda that it was because of him that Tomoe became such a problem for them now. He said that a year ago, he humiliated Tomoe by defeating him in front of his supporters. Bon remembered about that incident. He said that because of that incident, Tomoe lost his pride and power and began to threaten people around him by using violence like what Kotaro did. Tomoe's former supporters were annoyed because of that. While they were beating Tomoe up, Tomoe became out of control and ended up killing one of them. Kotaro also revealed that Tomoe was the one who had hired the Inukami brothers to pose as the Cayman teachers. Tomoe did that so that he could claim that he had defeated the Cayman teachers. By claiming that he had defeated the Cayman teachers, he could gain respect and sympathy from many students in that school, and then organize the mass to intimidate and attack Kinzo. Kinzo realized that he was the one who made Tomoe did all this. Because of that, he finally decided to confront Tomoe to end all this. While Tomoe and Kinzo were having an argument, Goda suddenly came to that place and interrupted them. Tomoe began to beat Goda up, but Goda didn't fight back. Goda allowed Tomoe to take his anger and frustration out on him. After Kinzo saw Goda's sincerity, he asked Goda to let him handle this. Just like Goda, Kinzo also sacrificed himself by allowing Tomoe to take his anger and frustration out on him. Kinzo also apologized to Tomoe for what he did to him in the past. Tomoe cried when he heard that, but he didn't stop beating Kinzo up. After a while, Kinzo finally decided that it was enough and began to attack Tomoe back. He threw his punch at Tomoe's face, but it didn't touch him. Because of that, Tomoe finally realized that he was wrong and stopped attacking Kinzo. But suddenly, the Inukami brothers came to that place and began to attack Tomoe and the others. Tomoe and the others tried to attack them back, but the Inukami brothers managed to defeat them easily. Not long after that, the Black Cayman teacher showed up in that place and began to attack the Inukami brothers. Kinzo got up and helped him to attack those men. But unfortunately, the Cayman teacher and Kinzo were unable to defeat the Inukami brothers because they were too strong. Goda, who dressed in the Cayman teacher costume, finally arrived in that place and helped his partner to attack the Inukami brothers. The Cayman teachers and the Inukami brothers then got into a fierce battle. But after a while, the Inukami brothers managed to defeat Goda and Kigo. All students in that place were sad when they saw what happened to Goda and Kigo. They began to cheer for them and encourage them. After Goda and Kigo heard that, they slowly got up and began to attack the Inukami brothers again. Fortunately, with the support from other students, Goda and Kigo finally managed to defeat the Inukami brothers. All students cheered for them when they saw that. After that, Goda and Kigo left that place. Later, Goda asked Kigo about the reason why he decided to protect other students. Kigo said that he was doing it because of Goda. He said that he wouldn't change his method while working as the Cayman teacher. The next day, Kentaro informed Goda that Tomoe would return to the rehabilitation center. Kentaro also regretted that he was unable to change his students into better people that he needed to hire Cayman teachers to do the job. While Tomoe was leaving the school, Kinzo and Shishimaru approached him and talked to him. Kinzo realized that he had changed into a better person since Goda came to their school. Before Tomoe left for the rehabilitation center, Kinzo said goodbye to him. In the evening, Goda went to Tobi's restaurant and apologized to Seiko and Tobi about the incident that happened to Shoei. He was still feeling guilty about what happened to Shoei. He thought that it was because of him that Shoei died. He apologized to Tobi because he was unable to save his son. The next day, Goda gave a form to each student in the classroom. He instructed his students to write about what they were going to do after they graduated from high school. After Kinzo wrote his answer, he crumpled up his form and threw it at Goda. After that, he left the classroom. Goda checked Kinzo's answer and found out that Kinzo wanted to become a teacher like him. Kinzo also revealed that he already knew that Goda was the Cayman teacher. Goda was surprised when he heard that. He didn't know about what to say, but thinking about Kinzo's dream made him happy and smile. Later, Goda received a call from his superior, Rui Ikura. Goda told Rui that he had successfully done his job in his own way, and he managed to keep the peace in that school. After Goda managed to handle all troubled students in that school, he thought that there was nothing that he needed to worry anymore. But one day, Kinzo Takehara, one of the strongest students in that school, suddenly disappeared. Nobody knew about where Kinzo was, not even his best friend Shishimura. But one morning, after Kinzo had gone missing for 6 months, he suddenly showed up in Class 2C and began to attend classes again. As the homeroom teacher for Class 2C, Goda was extremely happy when he saw Kinzo there. He hugged Kinzo and welcomed him back to class. While Goda and Ichimura were walking home, Kanako suddenly approached them and told them that a student of Class 2C had been acting strangely. That student was named Shikage Inatsu. Kanako said that one evening she ran into Shikage and saw her dressing up differently. To Kanako, Shikage admitted that she had just returned from the university entrance exam. Kanako found it suspicious because she knew that Shikage came from a poor family and the university entrance exam fee was very expensive. For that reason, she suspected that Shikage was working part-time as a prostitute so that she could participate in taking the university entrance exam. After Goda heard that, he came to see Bon and asked him to help him to find some important information about Shikage. It didn't take a long time for Bon to find some information about Shikage that Goda asked him. Bon told Goda that Shikage planned to attend a prestigious university. But since Shikage came from a poor family, she decided to work part-time as a hostess at a cabaret club. The cabaret club where Shikage was working at was also known as one of the most dangerous clubs in Japan. Ichimura and Goda were worried about Shikage when they found out about that. Ichimura then went to the cabaret club and asked the worker there that she wanted to talk to Shikage. Shikage was surprised when she saw her teacher there. She was ashamed of herself and what she was doing. She tried to leave that place, but Ichimura said that she couldn't leave just like that because she had paid to talk to her. Ichimura came to that place to tell Shikage about a scholarship that was offered by the prestigious university that Shikage wanted to attend. She also said that Shikage was not supposed to work as a hostess at that cabaret club. She then asked Shikage to quit her job and leave that place with her. But while Ichimura and Shikage were trying to leave that place, the owner of the cabaret club and his bodyguards stopped them right away. Ichimura and the owner of the cabaret club then got into an argument. Ichimura threatened that she would report the owner of the cabaret club to the police because he had hired a high school student to work for him. The owner of the cabaret club was furious when he heard that. He slapped Ichimura's face until Ichimura fell down. While he was about to attack Ichimura for the second time, Kinzo suddenly came to that place and stopped him. Kinzo then began to attack the owner of the cabaret club and all his bodyguards. When he thought that he had defeated all of them, a special bodyguard beat him up and managed to defeat him. But not long after that, the Cayman teacher showed up in that place. He immediately attacked the owner of the nightclub and all his bodyguards and finally managed to defeat all of them. The next day, the Deputy Minister of Education, Nobuhiko Mito, called Rui to his office. Nobuhiko was disappointed with the Cayman teacher program after he found out about the problems that happened in high school where Goda was working at. He thought that the Cayman teacher had failed to help the Japanese government to solve the problems that happened in that school. For that reason, he decided to cancel the Cayman teacher program that had been created by Rui. He also planned to take over the high school where Goda was working at and do something there. In the staff room, the teachers discussed about the new teachers who were going to teach in that school. They were surprised when they heard about the news because they already had enough teachers to teach in that school. Besides, there was no significant problems that happened in their school anymore. So they wondered about the reason why the school decided to add new teachers to their school. Turned out, those new teachers were the deputy head teacher and his assistant. The deputy head teacher was named Kohai Roman, and his assistant was named Toko Anan. They were sent by the Ministry of Education to that school to take care of that school. Turned out, it was the plan that Nobuhiko was talking about. Goto was surprised when he saw Kohai there. He recognized Kohai as the teacher who taught him when he was in high school. Back then, when he was in high school, he used to be a delinquent student. But because of Kohai's wise words, he finally realized that what he was doing was wrong. It was also because of Kohai that Goto decided to become a teacher. He admired and thanked Kohai for that. When Goto and Ichimura tried to leave the school, they caught some students bullied another student. Goto tried to stop those students, but those students attacked him instead. Suddenly, Kohai came to that place and beat those students up. After he defeated them, he took them with him. In another place, Toko saw some students harassing a female student. Toko then attacked those students and took them to the room where Kohai kept the bullies he had defeated earlier. It seemed that it was Toko and Kohai's method to punish and discipline the students in that school. Kohai also introduced and applied a system where the students would earn some points if they broke the school rules, such as not wearing the uniform properly, skipping classes, or challenging their teachers. If the points that they earned had reached a certain number, then the school would automatically kick them out of the school. Kohai created that rule so that the students in that school would become more disciplined. Each morning, before the students were allowed to enter the school area, the teachers would check them to see if they followed the school rules or not. If the teachers caught the students breaking any school rules, then they needed to punish them. The students were annoyed by the new system that was applied in their school. On the first day when the system was applied, many students almost got kicked out of the school because they broke too many school rules. One of the students protested and pushed Kuon's body until he fell down. Kuon felt frustrated because of that. He hated himself because he didn't have any courage to stand up for himself and to fight his students back. He felt useless because he was not respected by his students. While he was teaching in classes, his students always ignored him and even harassed him. Kohai felt bad for him when he saw him. He then encouraged Kuon and asked him to join him to realize the programs that he created to discipline the students in that school. At night, Kohai, Toko, and Kuon were wearing black masks and uniforms as if they were Keiman teachers. Their mission was to find and discipline the students who hadn't returned home yet at night. They saw a group of students hanging out on the street and beat them up right away. Kohai said that the students needed to stay at home and were not allowed to go out at night. Later, in order to make the students more disciplined, Toko suggested that they created a student council that consisted of disciplined students. She argued that the student council could help them to handle the problematic students in that school. Goto protested when he found out about Kohai's plan. He argued that violence wouldn't help them to solve any problems. He was also confused about the change in Kohai's personality. He thought that Kohai was not like the old Kohai whom he used to know, but Kohai refused to listen to him. He said that he just wanted to make his students more disciplined. After the student council was created, the members of the organization began to patrol the school to help the teachers to handle problematic students. They easily gained respect from other students in that school. Each time other students saw them patrolling the school, they always admired them and even got intimidated by them. But not all students respected the student council. Some students decided to challenge that organization, and those students were Kinzo and his friends. Kohai refused to just stay quiet when he found out about that. Together with Toko and Kuon, he planned to teach a lesson to Kinzo and his friends. In the evening, they dressed in Keiman teacher costumes again and attacked Kinzo's friends. After a while, they managed to defeat them easily. Now that after Kinzo's friends got defeated, Kinzo and Kigo were the only members of their gang who were left. Kinzo was mad when he found out about what happened to his friends. He said that he would take revenge on Kohai for hurting his friends. Later, Kinzo met with Kohai, Toko, and Kuon, who dressed in Keiman teacher costumes. Before they got into a fight, Kigo suddenly came to that place to help Kinzo to attack those teachers. Kinzo then decided to fight Kuon and Kohai. Meanwhile, Kigo would fight Toko. The fight between those students and teachers then broke out. Kinzo managed to defeat Kuon easily. But unfortunately, he finally got defeated after Kohai beat him up. Meanwhile, Kigo was struggling to attack Toko, But suddenly, Goda the Cayman teacher came to that place and helped Kigo. Kouai saw Goda in that place and attacked him right away. While Kigo and Toko continued to have a fight, Kouai and Goda got into a fight as well. Kigo finally had to accept the fact that Toko was way much stronger than him. After Toko defeated him, she told him the reason why she attacked her students. She said that she was doing this because her students always refused to listen to their teachers. The teachers became frustrated because of that. So by using violence, Toko hoped that the students would become more disciplined and know how to respect their teachers. Meanwhile, Goda was still struggling to defeat Kouai. But unfortunately, he was also defeated by Kouai. He fell from a high place and needed to get hospitalized because of that. The next scene revealed about Kouai's past. It was revealed that back then, Kouai was always excited to teach in classes. But sadly, his students had never paid attention to him. Instead, they mocked him and his passion in teaching. Kouai was angry because of that. He felt hurt, betrayed, and humiliated. Since that time, he finally decided to use violence to discipline his students. Many students' parents protested about what Kouai did to their children. They didn't like about how Kouai used violence to discipline their children. The headmaster then decided to fire Kouai. Since that time, Kouai decided that he wouldn't become a teacher anymore. But when the Ministry of Education called him and asked him to handle the troubled students in school, Kouai accepted the offer right away. He wanted to change his way of thinking, where he believed that they needed to use violence to discipline the students and to make them respect their teachers. Later, Kouai received information that Kinzo and Kigo still didn't accept him and Toko in their school. He then planned to teach a special lesson to Kinzo and Kigo. He ordered the student council to find Kinzo and Kigo. After they found them, they took them to a place and attacked them there. While Kinzo and Kigo were having a fight with the members of the student council, the members of the M4 came to that place to help Kinzo and Kigo. The battle between Kinzo's gang and the student council continued to happen. During the battle, Shishimaru told Kinzo and Kigo to find and handle the 3 Cayman teachers. Meanwhile, he and the others would take care of the rest of the student council. Kinzo and Kigo agreed to do that and left that place. Kinzo finally met with Kuon and Kigo met with Toko. Even though Toko had defeated Kigo before, Kigo refused to give in and tried his best to defeat Toko this time. After a while, Kinzo finally managed to defeat Kuon. Before Kigo had a fight with Toko, he turned himself into the Black Cayman teacher first. After he changed his costume, he and Toko then got into a fight. At school, the members of the M4 were still struggling to defeat the executives of the student council. Kigo and Kinzo tried to defeat their opponents, but unfortunately, they failed to do that because Toko and Kouai were too strong. Kinzo tried to throw his best punches at Kouai, but Kouai was not affected by them at all. Kouai attacked him back by punching him hard in the face, and Kinzo fell down right away. While Kigo was getting cornered by Toko, Toko reminded him about his mother, who had been betrayed by her own students, which eventually drove her mad and made her take her own life. Not long after that, Goda the Cayman teacher finally came to that place with his motorcycle. Kigo got up again and helped Goda to attack Toko and Kouai. The battle between Kouai's team and Goda's team finally began. At school, the members of the M4 were trying their best to defeat the members of the student council. During the battle, Kigo told Toko that treating the students with care and heart would be more efficient to change the students into better people rather than using violence. After a while, for the first time in his life, Kigo finally managed to defeat Toko. Toko got smashed to the ground and her mask fell off. Kigo was surprised when he found out that he had been fighting with Toko all this time. Meanwhile, Goda was still trying to defeat Kouai and to reason with him. Kouai still refused to listen to him and beat him up repeatedly instead. Because of that, Goda's mask got destroyed, Goda's real identity got revealed. Everybody was surprised when they found out that Goda was the person behind the Cayman teacher. The members of the M4 couldn't believe that the Cayman teacher who had saved them was Goda himself. Goda was still trying to make Kouai realize that what he was doing was wrong. He wanted Kouai to return to his old self, where he believed that he could only change his students with heart and not violence. Koei finally realized about what he had done all this time after Gota punched him hard in the stomach. He realized that he had been listening to his ego all this time and not his heart. He then accepted his defeat and slowly walked away from that place. While Gota, Ichimura, and their students were trying to leave that place, Kuon suddenly showed up in that place and angrily ran toward them, trying to kill all of them with his knife. But suddenly, a white Kamen teacher suddenly stopped Kuon and knocked him unconscious. After everything that happened, Gota came to see Kintaro and told him that he wanted to leave the school because the students there had found out about his identity as the Kamen teacher. Before Gota left that place, he approached Kinzo and told him that he knew that the white Kamen teacher who saved them from Kuon another day was Kinzo. Turned out, when Kinzo was missing from school for 6 months back then, he was busy preparing himself to join the Kamen teacher program. Gota said goodbye to Kinzo and asked him to take care of the school. He believed that Kinzo would become a good Kamen teacher and continue to keep the peace in that place. After that, Gota entered the classroom to say goodbye to his students. But when he was about to bid farewell, all students in the classroom suddenly said that they didn't know about who the Kamen teacher was. Gota smiled when he heard that and said that he loved all of them. At the end of the series, some gangsters from another school went to Gota's high school and challenged the students there to have a fight with them. The 3 Kamen teachers showed up and began to attack those gangsters. They wouldn't allow anyone to ruin the peace in their school.